It is true oil time. Before I apply this, I want to point out that the wood on this is noticeably lighter than the wood was on the Les Paul. So I don't think this oil is going to make it go as dark as the Les Paul was, or is. Look at that. It looks kind of odd with the brown against the black. But honestly, the way this is going to play, you're not even going to be looking at the guitar because your eyes are going to be closed, dreaming about why you haven't done this before. If you've never played a neck that's oiled with true oil, then next time you're in the car, get some speed up, controlled of course, open the window, put your hand out and feel your palm gently tickled by the breeze. That's what it's going to be like to play this neck. My next job is with this 4-0, that's 0000 steel wool. I'm going to rub it up and down against the neck, and that should give us a very, very smooth finish. Little trick for you, this is a magnet. I'm going to put it in there because it sticks to the steel wool, being steel, and it stops all those little fibres coming off and getting in places you don't want them on an electric guitar. That's all the steel wool done at this stage. The neck has lost some of its shiny gleam. However, that will come back in the final stage. I'm going to add this nut, which is the Graphtec Black Tusk. It's permanently lubricated. It's really cool. I put a white one on the Les Paul, and it's one of the most basic upgrades I do to almost all of my guitars. All of them when I have the time. I've never really had a problem with this nut, but I know that the Graphtec one is going to be better. Now take a screwdriver and a hammer and give it a slight tap. Can you hear that change in tone? That's the seal breaking. It's in there quite tight, so I'm going to come from above. She's in there really tight. There we go. And that's the old nut out. Managed to take out a little bit of wood. Notice that there's not much wood on there, which means that Gibson didn't use much glue. Well done, Gibson. If you're ever replacing a nut, don't glue the heck out of it. You only need a little bit, a little drop. This Graphtec is roughly 9mm high. And the old Gibson one is 8.76, so I'm going to have to cut the nut slots a little deeper on the Graphtec one. The nut is too thick to fit in this slot here, so it needs to be slimmed down a little bit. I'm going to do that with some 150 grade sandpaper, just rubbing it back and forth. This is now grade 40 sandpaper, the 150 was taking too long. I'm not going to go crazy with the 40, but it's just going to speed things up a little bit. It's almost fitting in now, it's almost in there. Up to 100. If anyone owns a sandpaper producing company and wants to sponsor my channel, please let me know. It's time to glue the nut on. I'm using some super Kleber. This is basically super glue, little spot, and one on the bottom as well. And then align the nut. This nut is too wide for the SG, so I'm going to be shaving it down at the sides. But it is now in the middle. Cool. This blade is rusty and blunt, and it's fine for scraping away sawdust. But if we're going to reshape a nut with it, I want a brand new blade. She's taped up and ready to go. What I'm going to do first is take this file, and we're just going up and down checking every so often because we don't want to go through the tape or or indeed through the wood. And the test to see if it's flush or not is just to run your fingernail up there. If it catches, it is still too proud. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to move on to the other side. I'm just holding it at 90 degrees to the fretboard. This tool is too abrasive to take it right down to the wood because you will catch some of the wood. So I've taken it down most of the way. There's still a bit of a lip. Time to put the file away. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this blade and go just up, starting at the bottom of the nut, making sure not to go onto the wood. Hold the blunt end of the knife against the binding here, run it in this direction and see what noise it makes and how much you need to force it. Okay, there's a little bit of a noise, which is good, but hardly any force. On this side, it gets stuck, which means we need to do this side. I want to retain the curvature of that end, so what I'm doing is I'm just varying that angle ever so slightly. I'll do the same test again on this side, blunt side of the knife, on the binding. Yeah, a little bit of friction, but nothing much. I've got some 1000 grit sandpaper just to finish that off. All we're doing really with 1000 is polishing it. It's these little things that make the difference between a guitar that feels good and a guitar that feels bad. And often the cheaper guitars will not have this attention to detail and will therefore feel bad. But you spend a bit more money on a guitar, gives someone a bit more time to work on that guitar. And you'll find things like this are much more comfortable when you play. You may not even notice what it is that makes it comfortable, but I guarantee you it's these tiny little things that the builders are doing. That now feels like one continuous thing. There's no gap. Doing a final run with the lemon oil. I'm now adding a touch of true oil to the areas where I've been working around that nut. But that was really just a smidge. Now, fresh bit of paper. I'm going to start wiping it back off again. This will help it regain that shine it had before I started steel wooling it, and also means it won't form any kind of lacquer. So I've wiped it straight back off again. It means it's got a chance to go into the wood, but not enough time to form a hard lacquer of any kind. Cool, it's also regained that shiny sheen that it had before. I'm going to leave that to dry and settle. I'll come back and restring it in a bit. What I have here is the bridge, tailpiece, and some black pieces inside. A little drop of machine oil in there before I put them in. Always pop that in just in case, you never know. I was extremely sure about putting the chrome hardware on the Les Paul, but I'm not so sure about putting the black hardware on here. I don't want to have to spend any money, which is the main reason I swapped the hardware. But we will find out. More filth from the Les Paul. Just when you thought you'd seen the last of that filthiness, it rears its ugly head in the tailpiece that's going on the SG. More filth? Yuck. This bridge is quite worn from the palm muting of the dirty hobo that had the Les Paul, so I was considering respraying this, but it won't be on this time. I want this guitar up and running. Okay, I'm going to switch that cream. Doesn't really want to stay on the rhythm position. It's a bit It'll be fine. Leave it alone, stop fussing. I'm going to stick with the original machine heads for now. I've just polished the frets using the fret polishing system from D'Addario Planet Waves. You can see that in a separate video of which I did a review, and I'll put that link in the video description. But now I'm going to oil this fretboard one more time. If you're interested, that's the D'Andrea USA Lemon Oil Cleaner and Conditioner. It's pretty good. It smells nice too. Honestly, after seeing the black tape on the pickups, it makes me want to put black pickup covers on the guitar. But that is a job for another day. Time to get the knobs off with my funky little tool. If you don't happen to own one of these, go and get one, because taking knobs off can be an absolute pain in the neck. But using a tool like this, you can do it quickly, easily, and without even a chance of damaging the guitar unless you're a complete doofus. Sorry for offending any doofuses out there. Finally, time for the bridge to go on. Right way around, I hope. And the tailpiece to slot in. Boom. String time. Elixir Nanowebs gauge 10. Here I come. It would appear that the truss rod does not need adjusting, so I've got the nut cut. I'm going to cover that truss rod cover. I was being quite precious with the Les Paul and making sure that it looked nice and pretty and as beautiful as possible, but with this SG, I feel like it doesn't quite deserve or doesn't need to be so perfect. I like a little rough around the edges on the SG. I think it's a rock guitar, so it needs to be treated with a bit of rock and roll style. To make this slightly more black SG slightly more black, I've taken the knobs from the Les Paul and I'm donating them here. A little tip, if you're putting knobs on a pot and they tend to fall off, which this one is doing, take a flat blade screwdriver, insert it into the pot like that, and just very gently wiggle it left and right. Very gently. And there we go. Also from Birchwood Casey is the Gunstock wax, which I like to put on right at the last stage of finishing a guitar. Get it on that neck. And this really brings that shine back and makes the neck even slipperier. And also protects the wood. Man alive. It is finished. My SG is done and playable again. It's so nice to have strings back on it. The black hardware, I think you hardly notice. It sort of fades into the body of the guitar. That's noticeable. But as a player, it's so much more pleasant to play. The notches have gone, the little indentation that was here is gone, you can't feel it whatsoever. The break is still visible due to the repair job that I didn't do. This was before my time. But it is better and it looks better and it feels better than it did before. I'm really, really happy with it. Thank you for sticking with me in this double part video series. If you like the video, then please like it. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then please do. I've got more stuff coming up for you and loads more in the past. I'm the Guitar Geek. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.